reaching a community so they can experience that. Covenant keeper leaders, we need your help with leading covenant keepers. Well, I can't do that. That's kids. Why not? I don't know. God can't use me, can He? Yes, He can. We need your involvement. We need you to be involved in this. Understand this. God can, does, and will use you as you get involved in your growth. But we've got to forget some things. We've got to forget why we can't do what God has called us to do and remember what's most important. But number two, the key to remembering what's most important is having right perspective. You've got to have right perspective. There's a man by the name of Tom Wheeler, CEO of Mutual Life Insurance. He tells a story of him and his wife driving down the road, and they needed some gas. He had his fancy car and, fancy suit, and he pulls over to get some gas, and he goes to the restroom. He's washing his hands. He's coming back, and he sees that the attendant and his wife are in a pretty animated discussion. And he gets in the car, and they drive off, and he says, I noticed you had quite a conversation. Did you know him? And she goes, oh, yes, I know him from high school. As a matter of fact, we dated for a year. And so this powerful CEO says, well, it's a good thing I came along in your life when I did then. And she goes, oh, honey, she goes, if I would have married him, he would have been the CEO and you would have been the gas attendant. We can always have two different perspectives on a situation, can't we? But what we got to have is the right perspective. We got to have His perspective. I don't know about you, but when I go and I try to tackle things in life, if I'm doing it in my own strength, it's usually I'm the one that gets tackled. If I try to address something in my own strength, my own wisdom, my own power, God encourages us to use our minds. He gave them to us for a reason. But when we need power from above, and then you try to address it in your own strength, it will knock you out. There are some spiritual battles that you go through that you think, oh, it's just a bad day. No, you are going through a spiritual battle. And sometimes you just don't know it until you come out on the other side. You have to have a right perspective and know that God is calling us to a place. In verse 14, it says this, when he, the prodigal, spent all, there arose a severe famine in the land, and he began to be in want. He began to be in want when the famine took place. There was a famine that happened, and now he was in want. Do you ever want things? I want things. I want a lot of things. The question is do I need them? Do I need them? And many times we don't ask God about the things that we want because He might say no. But the question is what do you need? Do you know that God wants to be your need meter? Do you know what I mean by that? I can say that and we can go, yeah, I can understand. God wants to meet my needs. But then why is it that when we're going through the most difficult times in life, He's the last one we call out to? Why is it that when we're even going through just joyful times, we don't just say thank you? Why is it that when we're miscommunicating and things can sometimes be chaotic, we don't ask His opinion or get His perspective on situations in life? It's because we haven't allowed Him to be our need meter. We want God when everything's horrible and we need Him to show up now. But God says, I want to be your need meter that walks with you. I want you to look to Him, to Christ, as your need meter whenever you're going through any situation in life. We're in a system where we kind of have this routine where when do you go to the doctor? When you're sick. When you're sick, you need a doctor. You call the doctor. But not many people do just their checkups all the time. Why? Because the doctor might find something. When do you go get your car fixed? When it's broke. You need to get it fixed. Then we call upon Him because we're in want. We've got to get this car fixed. But we just sometimes we don't go get our cars checked out. Why? Because they might find something that's wrong and we have to pay some extra money for it. So sometimes we get in this routine of, well, I'll go to God when I'm in want, but I'm not going to go on a daily basis as if there's a need because He may show me something that I don't want to see. If you just let God be God in those situations, there would be such a spiritual health. Just like the physical body. As you take care of it, as you check that out, you will find out that you can become better and stronger. Same with your spirit. But we have to come to a place where we let God be our need meter. The key to remembering what's most important is having a right perspective. So we are going to have to let God do that in our hearts. The last thing is this, and I'll close with this. If we're going to learn to forget, then know this. The key to having right perspective is embracing the presence of the Father. It's embracing the presence of the Father. Verse 20, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him felt compassion for him, ran and embraced and kissed him. You know what that tells me? It tells me that the father was looking for him every day. Every day he was out there looking for his son to return. There is nothing better than being in the presence of the Father. You've got to understand, if you want a right perspective, you're only going to get that from God. When my kids were younger, they don't necessarily do this now, but when there were storms and it's dark, the lightning's cracking and thunder's booming, and it's nighttime, you know what they do? They come chucking down the hallway and they swan dive into my bed. Why? Because they want to be in the presence of mom and dad. They're scared. I remember doing that as a kid. Why do we do that? Because we're afraid. We want to get near mom and dad because if we're near mom and dad, the storm's still going, but it's okay because we're with mom and dad. You see, the fact that they jumped in my bed didn't make the storm stop. The lightning still was flashing. The thunder still was booming. It's not like I have some special request line. I can say, God, can you make the thunderstorm rain everywhere but my neighborhood, please? I get no favors like that. Why would they want to come in my room? Because there's something about being in the presence of their mom and dad. So it is in a relationship with God. As you learn to forget, to have right perspective means that we are to embrace the presence of the Father. When you get into the presence of God, you are going to find out that all will be good. God is not waiting for us in order to humiliate us. God is not waiting for us